And a good evening. Welcome out to Little Woodrose for Lamar University Football Coaches Show. Coach Blane Morgan joining us as we'll be talking about this past weekend's game against Prairie View A&M. Cardinals getting ready for Nichols coming to town on Saturday afternoon, the second of three straight to be played at Provost Humphrey Stadium. Coach, going back to Saturday's ball game, a setback to Prairie View A&M. Just you've had a chance to look at the video from that game, kind of break it down a little bit.
Yeah, I thought on offense, I thought probably the best game running the football that we've had since we've been here. We were pretty consistent, and our offensive line, really took over in the with their front. So that was exciting to see. Kaylin Griffin going over 100 yards rushing and really being able to do that. And then on defense, I thought we just gave up too many big plays. Yeah. I thought that was the name of the game. We go and we tie the game up, go 7-7, and then they bring it out, and then our kickoff cover team does a great job and tackles them in at the 10-yard line. And I'm thinking we're going to get the ball back in great field position. We're going to get some momentum going our way, and then they pop the big run, and get tackled at the 10. And so we've got to do a better job of just gap control, because you can't, simple handoffs that pop. It's obviously someone, that's busting an assignment, and we've got to cinch that down a little bit.
Yeah, you mentioned big plays. They're scoring drives, a couple of them, and a minute and a half, and as you just said, that's something you've got to. Back you got to make those stops.
Yeah, and then we've been pretty methodical on offense, and early in the year we had some explosiveness to our offense. But teams, what they're doing now is they're playing soft in coverage and playing a soft 3-deep coverage, and just saying, hey, we'll give you 6-7 yards a pop, and you're going to have to earn it and hang on to the ball and be very patient. And so that's what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to take care of the football, and then as soon as we get into those zones where they cinch down, because we took our shots, we tried to throw it. We had a couple. We had a couple trick plays here and there, and a couple double moves where we tried to get by them, and they just weren't biting.
Speaking of trick plays, I mean, every team has them. At what point do you look at, okay, this is the time to call one? In a situation?
Yeah, I think most of the time it's just kind of in the natural flow. A lot of guys like to call them in the red zone, and just when a defense, when you know that a defense has a noticeable change. What you study on offense every single week is there's a certain point inside the 25 where a defense is going to change. They're going to get a little more aggressive. They're going to play a little more man coverage, and you've got calls built in to attack those coverages.
You touched at this at the very onset, Kaylin Griffin, best night in a Cardinal uniform, 17 carries, 114 yards, averaging nearly 7 yards a carry, 6.7, by far his best game as a Cardinal, and he ran north and south.
Yeah, and that I mean, he'll be the first one to tell you that says a lot about the progress of our offensive line and our tight end, and you got a guy by the name of Devin Gibbs and Nate Gaskamp that at tight end, they're just an extension of the O-line, guys that are emerging and exciting to watch. And so it's a testament to those guys and how they blocked, but he also leads the team in yards after contact and broken tackles, and he's a guy that's just a great kid to be around. He's got an awesome personality, pretty excitable, and that's a good room right now. I mean, that running back room is. I went in there today. They're fun to be around. They hold each other accountable and do a great job of that. And certainly, if something happens in practice, they're going to give it to each other.
It goes without saying the game Kaylin had with his 114 yards rushing. I thought R.J. Carver, redshirt freshman out of McKinney.
Yeah.
I thought he had one of his better, if not best, game for you so far this season.
Yeah, both those guys are 210, 220 pounds, and so they're downhill backs. And RJ's gotten famous for he's had a couple hurdle. In the Cardinal Word game, he hurdled the guy, and then he did it again on Saturday. And I asked him this week. I said, "What goes through your mind when you're thinking about hurdling a guy? Because we've all seen that can go wrong as well, but." between him and Kalen, man, they're two of the most vibrant personalities on our team. They're fun to have around now. I mean, you come out to practice and you hear them. I mean, you can tell exactly where they're at.
They're jawing at one another.
Yeah, but they're just,
you got to love that.
They're just free spirits that are fun guys to be around and great to have on your team. I mean, they love football and they love coming out and practicing and competing every day.
Another guy, and we talk about this guy week by week, player of the year in the state of Texas in his classification last year, led his team to an undefeated state championship at China Springs, Major Bowden. And this guy here, he's going to run the football for you, but he also catches the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah, he dropped one on Saturday, and that in the running back room on Sunday when we came in and watched the tape, I bet all the other tailbacks were on him about he never. I mean, in all of our practices and everything, he's dropped one ball the entire time he's been here. I mean, he is. I'm just so excited about the future of going forward to that room. Kalen Griffin's a sophomore. R.J. Carver's a redshirt freshman. Major Bowden's a true freshman. There's a bright future in that room.
The morale on your team right now. I mean, obviously the wins aren't there yet.
Yeah.
They will be.
Yeah.
But they're not there yet. The morale and confidence level of your team, because they fight until the clock hits zero. They're fighting the entire game.
Yeah, I think when you're 18 to 20 years old, you're resilient. I think and you bounce back quickly. I don't think it's easy because of the environment and what we have as far as social media and everything surrounding. And you haven't won a game, and so as a coach, as a player, you want so badly. As a coach, you want so badly for your staff who's worked so hard for so long, and players that you've recruited that have had a great, really good offseason, and you want those guys to have success. But they also have to realize that every single week it's a matter of, are you working harder than the other team, and can you execute at a higher level? And there's a lot that goes into that, and I can get into it later. But
right.
That's what's so difficult about football is there's so many moving parts, 11 on each play, and if one does the wrong thing or pops a gap, then it's 6-7 points. If you fumble, you turn it over, that things go south. So that's the good thing and the hard thing about winning in college football. And there's a lot of coaches right now that have a lot of talent that aren't doing that, and one in this state that's catching a lot of heat, and it's hard. That just goes to show you that it's very, very, very hard to win a college football game, and you do that as guys get older, as they gain experience, and I'm hoping in these next 4 games we'll see breakthrough. I'm hoping this week we're going to see breakthrough. Our guys are going to take that step and improve. We're going to play well on both sides of the ball and special teams.
We are talking Lamar University football, the Coach Blane Morgan Show here at Little Woodrose in the Colonnade Shopping Center. Again, during the duration of the football season, we're out here every Wednesday from 7 until 8. We're going to shift gears, talk a little cross country, Lamar cross country, and track coming up next on the Blane Morgan Show on News Talk 560 KLVI. Harold Mann back with you at Little Woodrose, talking Lamar University football, the Coach Blane Morgan Show. We're going to shift away from football, talk a little cross country. Trey Clark joins us, and welcome to the show, Coach.
Appreciate it, Harold. Glad to be here.
Before we talk cross country, I had you on our pregame show a couple weeks ago, and you played a little football in high school over there with Anahuac?
Yep, I was a quarterback there at Anahuac.
Quarterback, and it was such a small school, you probably played on both sides, did you not?
I did. Played cornerback on the defensive side.
Have they named it Trey Clark Field yet over there?
No, it's still the Kyle White Field.
Just talk about how maybe playing high school football and the comparisons to, say, cross country and track and field, the athleticism there. So just, there's a lot of comparisons there.
I think for us, we look for kids who do multiple sports. We want somebody that's got a football background or basketball or baseball. And I think the better athlete you are, the better athlete you are, whether it's for cross country or anything else.
Let's talk about your cross country season. How's it going to this point?
It's been good. We've had a couple of meets. We've been to North Alabama. We had a good showing there. And then 2 weeks ago we were at A&M.
What's coming up?
Well, the conference championship in Thibodaux will be happening on Friday this week.
I'm sure you've been to Thibodeau before.
I have never been to
Thibodeau.
Thibodeau.
You've never been to Thibodeau?
30 years in the league and have never been to Thibodeau.
Well, I don't know if they're listening to it tonight, but you're not. No, I'm going to say. But anyway, I don't want to die. But you go down this. This is a true story. You get off the highway after you go through Morgan City South. You jump on this little highway for about 7 miles, and you got swamps on each side of you. And if you look over, you might be lucky enough to see a gator.
Well, being from Anahuac, it's the gator capital of Texas, so I'll be right at home.
Now, did you ever go gator hunting when you were growing up?
No, but we did swim in the river with them.
Really?
Really.
Wow. Anyway, okay. Again, that conference tournament coming up, visiting with Trey Clark, talking about Lamar cross country. Just talk about who steps it up for you this year, who are your leaders, and, who do you expect to really excel at the conference tournament?
It's going to be an interesting year for us. We spent a year away at the WAC, and coming back into the Southland, we have a different team. It's constructed a little differently. We have some returners, people like George Wheeler, expected to be one of our high finishers. Eli Pivoteau from Little Cypress, Mauriceville.
Mm-hmm.
He's been an all-conference performer for us. But we're also running 5 freshmen. And so anytime you go in with freshmen to a conference championship, it could be really good or it could be a really tough day for you.
Now, a course obviously you're not familiar with. For the folks that are out there, how long is the course? When the cross country goes, how long of a course is that?
The men will run 8K, which is essentially a 5-mile race, and then the women run 6K, which is 4 miles essentially.
Now, do you get a chance to get out a little early and practice run the course, because no courses are the same, obviously?
Right. We'll go in tomorrow. We'll have we'll go down to the facility and run the course tomorrow for a pre-meet. And then we'll race on Friday morning.
Now, what's it take to qualify? I guess what the next step would be, regionals?
Yeah, you go to regionals. It's an open event. Both our teams will go. We expect both of them to do well. Particularly the women, we're excited about the progress they've made. Somebody like Yasmin Ostrich, who's going to compete for one of the top spots in the conference. So 2 weeks from now, we'll go to A&M for the first round, which will be the regional level. And,
so regardless of how you do in the conference, it is an open invitational for the regional.
Yeah, it's open invitational, so anybody can go to the first round of the NCAA in cross country.
What's it take to advance from there?
To advance from there, you have to be a top 2 team finisher at the regional championship to get an automatic bid to the national meet. And then they also take individuals, so they take the top 4 individuals that are on teams that are not qualified for the meet.
Talking with you today again, talking with Trey Clark here on the Blane Morgan Show. Your staff, tell us a little about your staff.
Well, Andrew Sweeney is my cross-country coach. This is his 2nd year with us. Andrew came to us from Tiffin, which is a very successful D2 program, and he's done a great job. Really focusing on recruiting Texas kids to supplement our international students. And then I have Tyler Sunwall. He's in his 3rd year with us. He worked with the jumpers, and last spring he had a freshman that was a 2nd-team All-American in the long jump.
Awesome. You've been around a while.
I have been around.
You left Anahuac High School and came to Lamar as a student athlete and just never left.
I have never left. It's kind of like the mob. Every time I try to leave, they just pull me right back in.
What year did you run here?
I ran from the fall of '88 to the spring of '93.
And what made you decide to want to get into coaching? And your love, obviously, for the sport. Did you just kind of stumble into it, or when you came here out of high school, did you say, I'm going to be a track and cross-country coach?
I wanted to be an accountant.
Okay.
And really it kind of boiled down to I wanted to make some money.
Yeah.
And I did about a year and a half in accounting. I went, I don't want to sit behind a desk all day. And I decided I wanted to coach because of the influences that I've had in my life that have been coaches. And my only fear was telling my dad. I didn't want to tell Dad I wanted to be a coach, and his response was, as long as it makes you happy, son, it's good for me.
Good deal. The track and field, really not that far away. What's it look like? What you got coming up? Say, I think with the indoor in January?
Indoor actually opens up December 1st. We won't run our first competition until January. We'll spend a couple of weeks going into Houston for indoor meets. That's the closest indoor facility. And then the conference championship is in Birmingham, Alabama.
All right. back to the Southland Conference. You liking that because of the travel?
I love it. I think we're home. To me, it has nothing to do with the travel.
Right.
I mean, it was great going to Seattle. It was expensive, but it was great going there for outdoors. But for me, it's the rivalries, it's the history, it's it's home. We started the conference, back in the 60s, and we were one of the founding members, and I think it's the right place for us to be.
Coach, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Harold.
Coach Trey Clark, cross country, and of course track just around the corner. We're at Little Woodrow's on the Coach Blane Morgan Show. We're back on News Talk 560 KLVI. Harold Mann back with you, Little Woodrow's, talking Lamar University football. Thanks to Coach Trey Clark for stopping by. Good luck to cross country as they head down to Thibodaux for the conference meet coming up this weekend. Best of luck to Coach Clark and the Cardinals runners. As we move along, time now for our feature with the Lamar assistant coach. No relation, but love the last name, joined by Marshall Mann. Marshall, thanks for being with us this week.
Yeah, great to be here. Very excited.
Our first time to visit with you on the air, so tell us about your background a little bit.
Yeah, originally from Central Texas, born and raised in Belton, Texas, and then attended Salado High School. And then from there, went on to Baylor University, was a student assistant there, and then got my coaching start at Howard Payne University. And then after 3 seasons, came over to Lamar. So,
at what point, like I ask a lot of coaches, did you decide you wanted to be a coach? I mean, obviously played high school sports, as you mentioned, with Salado and moving up the ranks. What made you decide to get into coaching?
Yeah, so I grew up a coach's kid. My dad was a coach, a longtime high school coach before moving up into the college ranks, where he was a college golf coach and then eventually college athletic director at Mary Hardin Baylor. And so just growing up, every Saturday, every weekend, was up at whatever game was going on, I was there. And just being in that environment made me fall in love with it, and just seeing those coaches and the impact they had on the kids is something I wanted to do. And so really, since I was a little kid, that's all I wanted to do was just be around sports, and just kind of got into the college football game and loved it ever since.
Had the opportunity several years ago to do the TAPS baseball and softball state championships at Mary Hardin Baylor. That's quite a facility, how they got their softball and baseball. And at the time, I think they played at Belton High School, but now they got their own stadium?
That's correct, yep. So long time at Tiger Field there, just across the street, and I was a ball boy for 10 years over there. So great times, but now they've built it up, and great facilities over there, and spent a lot of time.
Difficulty or easy to be a coach's kid?
Man, that's a good question. I'd say it was easy for me. I mean, I loved it,
But do you feel more pressure playing for your dad? What sport did he coach you in high school?
Well, he didn't coach me necessarily in high school, and so he was already at college by the time I was there. But I enjoyed it just because of the perspective he had, and I probably took it for granted, but just all the input he was able to provide as I was growing up, and so I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was a bad experience at all, and just very supportive. So.
Got the opportunity to come to Lamar University. What attracted you and made you say yes to Coach Morgan to come here? Yeah,
I mean, really it was the first phone call I had with him, and just kind of sharing his vision, and number one, he talked about just loving players, and, that's something I'm very passionate about, and that's what stuck out to me was just going to love these guys and then recruit a bunch of guys that love football, and that's something that's what popped off immediately, and I was sold, and so definitely attracted me here.
You're a younger guy. Do you think that helps you relate to the players being a younger guy, but you're still the coach? You're still a coach, but does being closer to them in age help you somewhat, or help them relate to you maybe? Yeah, maybe a little bit, where I'm maybe a little bit more willing just to listen to their side. But as far as relatability, I try to fit in, figure out the music and what they're up to date on, but they may say something different, but I think it helps a little bit. Yes, sir. Your duties on the coaching staff, what do you handle?
Coach the cornerbacks.
Got some good ones back there, and they're young.
They're young. We don't have anybody that is past their second year in college, and so everybody's in their second year or younger. But, man, those guys are resilient, and they come to work every day, and they have a great attitude. And a little bit of that is they are young, and so they don't know any better, and, they just really enjoy coming to work every day. You mentioned you play in high school, a smaller classification, and we have a handful of kids that come out of the smaller classification ranks, Major Bowden being one of them, a state champion. Does that moving up to play college football at that level, does that help the kids? Are they
Do they come in here maybe with a deer in the headlights look or anything like that?
You know, I think it depends on the kid, you know, and, you know, a kid like Majors just played a bunch of ball and is a gamer, you know. But the thing you love about those small-town kids, man, is they play multiple sports. They're involved in their high schools and their communities. And, man, they grow up and they go on the weekends to go play ball, you know, and that's what you love about them. And, you know, I think when they come up, you know, they just know nothing else than to compete. And a lot of times they're playing on both sides of the football. And I think that gives them, you know, a unique perspective. You know, if you're at a bigger school, you've only played one side. So those guys can a lot of times share those experiences.
Visiting with Lamar assistant coach Marshall Mann on this week's Blane Morgan show. And I talked to a coach about this, you know, earlier. The morale, to keep the kids' head levels where they need to be, the confidence level. They come out every day ready to fight and practice? Absolutely.
You know, those guys come out, and I tell, you know, talking to recruits, I mean, if you came out to our practice, I don't think you would know what our record is. And that says a lot about the kids we have and the coaches we have. And, you know, shoot, it's about the cool thing about football is every week you're trying to go 1-0. So regardless of what happened last week, it's a new week, it's a new game plan, it's fresh. And so you just come out to work every day and a new opportunity on Saturday to go get a W.
You know, a message, I guess, to our fans and then both our young team both is stay the course, because stay the course and the wins will start coming.
That's exactly right. You got to stick to the process, you know, and we've been talking a lot about, you know, just pound that rock and eventually it's going to bust open. And when it busts open here, it's going to break in a huge way.
A little about your family.
I'm married to my wife, Annie. We've been married for 4 years and got a little son back home. He's 9 months old. And so he's a blessing. And so my immediate family and then mom and dad, back home, and then 2 older brothers.
I remember, I think it was the scrimmage, I'm walking through the stand, and the little guy has a T-shirt on, the last name Mann. I said, got to be Marshall's son.
There you go. That's him. He's a winner.
All right, Marshall, thank you so much for spending time with us on this week's program, and good luck this coming Saturday against Nichols and back home against Southeastern Louisiana. 2 home games in a row. Let's go and grab a couple wins.
Yes, sir. No doubt about it. Appreciate you.
All right, thank you. Coach Marshall Mann with the Lamar Cardinals. We're back with Coach Blane Morgan on News Talk 560 KLVI. Harold Mann back with you at Little Woodrow's talking Lamar University football, the Coach Blane Morgan show. Cardinals getting ready to host Nichols this coming Saturday. That's a 3 o'clock kickoff. We'll talk about that in just a second. And Coach, just had your assistant Marshall Mann on with us. You know, exciting young coach. Just tell us a little bit about Coach Mann.
Yeah, he. I knew about him and his family. I'd known his brother. His brother was at the Air Force Academy when I was there coaching, and so go way back and just know his family history and just just how he was raised, a coach's kid. And I'm partial to coach's kids being one myself, but he's an excitable guy that. Has a really good football head and a really bright coaching future ahead of him. Just incredible. And y'all have met a lot of our coaches. Right. I mean, just really some really incredible individuals and great husbands, fathers, and really mentors to our kids. And when we were putting a staff together, you're putting your first staff together, the one thing that was a priority for me was finding a guy finding a coach and a man that's going to be a great mentor, a great example for our young men, because ultimately there's more than the wins and the losses for why we coach, and it's bringing these young men and growing them up and creating great fathers, great husbands, and that's the ultimate, that's what I'm going to be ultimately held accountable for down the road. But as we all know, you gotta move the program and grow the program and eventually start seeing some wins.
Now, if I remember correctly, Marshall might have been like your director of operations, and he moved him up. And
I did.
At what point do you look at? Yeah, at what point do you look at and say, "Hey, we're ready to move up"?
Yeah, that was just a great story. He ran all of our operations and did such an incredible job. I mean, he's on top of everything, And really, the person running the football operations is like I'm seeing him every day. We're having conversation. We're setting the schedule. We're doing all those things, and he did such a great job with everything, finding solutions. And sometimes at certain schools, it's not really easy to get things done. And so, he did such a great job of just making that easy for me. And so I was like, man, we got to keep him. And I knew he wanted to, eventually coach. So we moved him over and, gave him a position, and he's the assistant recruiting coordinator. And so, just guys like that you can trust that really hold the standard of the program. You continue to elevate and give them responsibility, and they take it and take the bull by the horns and run with it.
Something I asked Tim, I'll ask you the same question. With him being a younger coach, does that help maybe with the relationship with the players, but they still, because he's close to him in age, but they still understand he's coach?
Yeah, I ask my young coaches all the time. I'm like, hey, give me some ideas, man. I'm so far, I'm 20-something years removed from being their age, but
right.
In my mind, I'm still 30 something.
You're still 18.
Yeah. Sometimes, I do. I try to stay current with those guys.
You mentioned he's your assistant recruiting coordinator. This time of year. Yeah. I mean, you're busy with practice. You're busy with games. Where do you find time to recruit this time of year?
Yeah, that's what was so wacky about our time here, because it was like you had a year in 2020 and there was no spring ball, there was no playing, so you got a chance to recruit. You had a lot of time, and then in 21 you played the whole year, and so trying to just to your point, finding time to. You've got to in your off time, because we're really a month away from, 2 months away from signing,
early signing period,
early signing period, and so we're scouring all the guys that are the known commodities right now are the junior college guys, and so we are scouring, we're recruiting. In fact, I'm going to get off the show and make probably 3 to 4 recruiting calls tonight after that, and. We've got a handful of holes that we know we got to fill, and I love the junior college ranks, because those guys have gone to hard small towns, and that they love football if you're in Hutchinson, Kansas, or Athens, Texas, or fill in the blank, Mississippi junior college, and so. Those are the guys that are the known commodities that are really, and Coach Brooks did that in this offseason. We had a conversation about that. But we like junior college. We do like recruiting junior college guys. It's a great way to get an older kid on campus.
It's probably self-explanatory, but you'll see before a game a bunch of kids on the sideline. Oh, those are recruits. They might say it's an unofficial visit. Isn't a visit a visit? What's the difference between maybe a recruiting visit and an unofficial visit?
Yeah, so an unofficial visit, a recruit, unless it's a dead period, can come on campus, and they're paying. You can't pay for their meal, you can't pay for anything on campus, and they're just coming on their own. And so that's what a game day visit is. They come on their own. We'll provide food, but they pay for it. They pay for everything, and then we get a chance to show them our campus, show them our facilities, have them on the sideline for our pregame. And really just give them a taste of, a taste of game day, at Lamar.
Without mentioning any names, of course, you can't. Because you can't.
That came out this week.
Local kids. Are you looking at any local kids?
Yeah, we've got a couple. That are very close on our radar. Probably the best, I would say, local recruiting class. Senior class in the area since we've been here, and so we've been working really hard at. By the end of fall we'll have been in every local school. We can only go once to remind those coaches. We can only be in there or see a game one time. Headed to Mid-County Madness and going to 2 games on Friday. Beaumont, Westbrook, and United play, and then Mid-County Madness.
Mid-County Madness.
So you got both on Friday night. So we're gonna go for half of one and then head on over for the other.
The early signing period for years and years. Hey, we waited till that first week of February before we saw. Now we have December and February. Do you like that early signing period to get it out of the way?
I do, especially for the last couple classes that we've had, and which has been, mainly high school kids and kind of a developmental program. And going forward, with this next recruiting class, I think you've got to look hard at some older guys to fill in the gaps and see if you can, take a big leap as a program, coming up.
You really can't speak for a kid signing, but why wouldn't a kid just go ahead and sign in December and some wait till February? I mean, are they still trying to choose where they want to go or things along those lines?
Yeah, the whole recruiting, all of recruiting has changed here in the last 24 months with COVID, and the COVID, what it did is it gave everybody that was currently on a college campus, junior college or 4-year, gave them an extra year. Right. So it really was like a 5 o'clock traffic for recruiting for high school kids. And then the transfer portal comes along, and now it's just complete chaos. So you've got teams that are recruiting all transfers. The junior college recruiting has gone down, and so it's still very relatively new because it just happened. And the one-time transfer happened in 2021, and then you add the NLI on top of that, and so it's been there's been a lot of just navigation of
right.
How can you recruit? How should you build a program now? And it's going to be a lot like the NFL when free agency came out. There are going to be teams that still, build from the draft and do it and take their lumps. And there are going to be other teams because there's not that, there's not the normal time to build a program anymore. And there's going to be some NFL teams that build it with free agency that every year they're going to try to put together the best team possible. And so what you've seen is the last few years, there's probably merit for both.
The extra COVID year, that's really messed up a lot of things in the fact that you don't know what classification some of these players are.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting story. So when I dismiss our team to go to when we break and we go to a meal, I always let my seniors and my juniors go first. And, of course, that's like few and far between. But I've got, we've got Devin Gibbs, who's a redshirt freshman. And when I say juniors, he goes because he's in his third year. Yeah. And so it's here
in a couple years, everything will level out.
Yeah, I think this last off season, everything started to a little bit. You kind of got back to a little bit of normal, and then teams will start to figure out. Will come up with their own philosophies. Now, if before COVID, if you had a good foundation and a good talent base, then those teams are still thriving because all those guys got to stay. But if you've had to build the program from scratch, now you're seeing these programs that had to do that they have a tendency to probably struggle for a couple years.
All right, we got to get our final break in. Again, we're visiting with Coach Blane Morgan, talking Lamar University football. Back to talk about what's coming up this weekend. From Little Woodrose on News Talk 560 KLVI. Harold Mann back with you at Little Woodrose, along with Lamar football coach Blane Morgan, talking Cardinals football. We do this each and every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock here at the Little Woodrose at the Colonnade Shopping Center. And again, invite you to come out and see us on Wednesdays. Cardinals getting set to take on Nichols. Nichols 2-6 overall, 2-1 in the league. In league play, they beat Houston Christian 19-17, lost to UIW 49-14, and got a 5-point win over our future opponent, McNeese State, 40-35. So they started off rough, but they have won 2 out of the last 3 games.
Yeah, I mean they've found a way. They've played, I think, each one of those games, and they lost one to Northwestern State, but each one of those games came down to the fourth quarter, and a few of them the last drive of the game. And so they've been with very similar opponents as us, played in some really close games. Like they won by 3 at Houston Christian, and we lost by 3 to those guys, and of course we haven't played McNeese yet, but they also played a close game with Northwestern State, and we rallied in that game. So very, very similar, I think, with this group of opponents, and they're going to be, I'm hoping, a closely contested game on Saturday, and we can find a way to come out on top.
Quarterback is Cohen Grainer for just under 1,500 yards passing and 10 touchdowns. When you look at him, what are your concerns? Will he run the ball as well? Or is he just primarily a passer?
Yeah, they'll do some read game with him, but he's not like last week. I mean, he's more of a passer because he's got a senior, that's rushed for I think he's rushed for 3,000 yards in his career. Yeah. And he's got a big offensive line. He's got some athletic receivers to throw it to. So they're very, very balanced in what they do, and they're very sound. Coach Rebo's been there for a long time, so he knows the formula. He knows how to put together a team. They've been a playoff team, and he's have a ton of respect for him as a football coach.
You talk about the running back, and that's Julian Gums, who has 550 yards rushing this year, including 3 touchdowns. A veteran player, an experienced upperclassman for Nichols. Is he more of a left-right or north-south type runner?
Yeah, they're going to look a lot like some other teams. They're going to be an inside zone team, which is a north-south team, and they're going to run counter and some gap scheme stuff and the RPOs and some read game with the quarterback off inside zone. So that's what they're going to do. So I would say that's more downhill. Just attacking you, getting downhill, and then they're gonna get in their 12 personnel and try to throw it down the field a little bit and have some explosive plays.
Now you said he runs the gap. Is that now looking at your defense? Is that all about assignment? The guys, they're assigned. You just got to stay put and protect the gaps.
Yeah, and the other day, like a couple of those runs were just simple inside zone plays, and I'm sorry, one was power, and they had blocked it up just a little bit different, and literally, you have one gap, a backer fills the gap, and the safety is expected to fill another gap, and he doesn't, and then it's gone. So it's about assignment football. 11 guys doing their job and fitting gaps and doing that play after play after play.
Leading receivers are K.J. Franklin, 355 yards receiving on the year, and they've got several receivers they go to. So when you look at Grainer, the quarterback, does he put it in there quite a bit?
Yeah, I mean I think you watch the Northwestern State game and you track it, and I think they almost had between Northwestern State and Nichols 1,000 yards of offense. So they had 500 yards of offense in that game. Last week they have over 500 yards of offense against McNeese, and so and it's very, very balanced. I mean that's hard to defend. You've got a senior quarterback, making great decisions, which you do when you've had as much experience. He came in the game our spring of 2020. When we played them in Thibodaux, he came into the game and he was I don't even know what he would have been then, with all the COVID classification stuff. But he's been around. He's played a lot of football, and we're gonna have to go with our offense match what they do a little bit on offense.
When you're scouting a team, say Nichols, how many games back do you go? Do you go from game one? Do you watch every game they played this year to see if the tendencies stay the same?
Yeah, because a defense and an offense, a team morphs as they go throughout the season, and you see a little bit of a pattern. They might start out early in the year and not have success, and then at a certain point in the year, you just say, okay, what are we going to be good at on offense and on defense? What are the capabilities of our quarterback, of our line, and on defense, the same thing. What can our guys execute, like coverage-wise? What are we good at? And so, you go back a little bit after last week's game, you go back to the drawing board and you say, what are we really, really good at? Where can we be gap sound? Where can we be solid? Where can we play the best and soundest defense?
Game day, 3 o'clock kickoff. Last week, 4 o'clock. I know I've asked you this question before, and those who may not have heard you talk about it, you love afternoon games, do you not?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, just cool. It's in the 70s this week. This October weather here the last couple of weeks has been amazing. I mean, it's awesome. This is football weather. We show up in the morning and it's in the 50s. You're just like, man, guys have just when it changes weather, guys just have new life to them. They have, they're, like we talked about, they're 18 to 20 years old, not a lot that are older than that, and they're absolutely resilient, and they show up, and they've learned how to practice.
Get to the stadium for a 3 o'clock kickoff. What's the game day schedule? What do you do on Saturday?
Yeah, on game day, what we'll do is, come in the morning and do a little walkthrough, and that's just the kind of final cleanup stuff. pregame meal 4 hours before. It'd be 11 o'clock on Saturday, and we still do that in the dining hall, and then show up a couple hours before kickoff. And for some reason, it might be at 3 o'clock, but that day is the longest day ever. I don't care if we're playing at 7:30 at night or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Meet with the officials 90 minutes prior to kickoff, and that's just kind of the normal routine.
All right, Coach, we got the home game this coming Saturday. We need a lot of folks out there supporting the Cardinals.
We do. We our kids have put in too much work to go back, and we've got to scratch, claw, and fight, and find a way, any way we can to get on the win side of the column this week.
All right, Coach. Thank you. Good luck on the Saturday 3 o'clock kick against Nichols. We're back here next Wednesday night at 7.
Awesome.
All right, that is Coach Blane Morgan. That's going to wrap up the show for this evening. Thanks to Coach Morgan. Also, thanks for Trey Clark, Lamar Cross Country and Track, stopping by. Coach Marshall Mann, thank you so much. We'll see you Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff with Nichols. Thanks to Chelsea back in the studios for the LU gang. I'm Harold Mann. Good night, everyone.